Warning, 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 warning. 3, 2, 1. The FantasyFootballTips.co podcast with Mills and Quigliano.
Hi, you're listening to Fantasy Football Tips. It's game week 26. My name's Mills, and I'm joined on Skype this week by JP and Quigliano. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening. Just great to hear you go straight into character there, mate. We were just having a nice casual off-air chat, and then it's...
Well, I switched it on, method acting and all that. So.
Professional Mills straight away, I like
Absolutely. Well, I've had plenty of time to sort of prep myself, haven't I? Because we were missing in game week 25, much to the dismay of the fans. I had email after email asking where the podcast was.
That same person just couldn't get that. He sent it twice today.
Yeah, it just got stuck in there somewhere. But so, Quigliano, you asked me a question earlier, didn't you? You were sort of talking to me earlier on, saying that you thought have we lost our mojo? What's all that about?
Feel like the Aussie fans aren't as interested in Quigliano anymore. Possibly they're questioning the brand, which is a concern. But I suppose that's sort of the dizzy heights of Wijnaldum calls and getting 4 goals and Eriksen braces out of nowhere. They've dried up a little bit. So I think maybe I need a nice win this week. That would cheer me up.
So is this more you sort of questioning yourself rather than the fans questioning you?
Well, I don't think I've had enough pats on the back from the fans, really. I think that's that's something. At one stage, they were writing a New Testament for me, but that seems to have dried up. What's going on there? Possibly this week's Delia, Quigliano's fans. But let's be having you. Right, carry on anyway, move on.
Okay, JP, you've managed to make the podcast this week. After I saw you earlier this week get yourself stuck in a little bit of a jam. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
It involved a car that you felt you could reverse out of a tight space, and then you got it even more stuck. So, JP, do you know what I'm talking about there when I say that?
I do, yes.
Okay, so do you want to elaborate?
Well, unfortunately, I accidentally guided someone out into another car, pretty much.
Right, okay.
Not good form for myself. That being said, the person would have crashed without me, so I did at least stop the crash from happening.
You're talking about reversing a car here, mate. We're not talking about sort of saving lives there.
Yes, they're both very important things.
What, reversing?
Yes.
How's that important, mate? Or I suppose there's a joke in there again regarding you and another man, but I'm going to stay well away from that. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you have. Obviously, we're not here to be rude. Reversing is a difficult task for many people. A certain type of person in particular. I won't mention that type of person, but obviously it is difficult for some. And I thought I would help in that situation.
He's a man that speaks in riddles, isn't he, JP? Right,
yeah.
I've heard enough. Okay, right. I want to get down some fantasy football tips, if that's okay, gentlemen. That's after all what the podcast is titled. So we better discuss some. Quigliano, I'm going to come to you. Let's talk about the Gary of the week.
The Gary of the week. I'm putting eggs in one basket today. Okay, so I'm covering bets, you might say. We're saying that Villa have got no chance of a performance this weekend, and I'm backing Firmino as the Gary of the week. Thoughts on that?
JP?
Yeah, absolutely. He would have been probably my Gary. Villa are obviously a poor side. They lost again. Liverpool look dangerous going forward. Firmino is now, you'd probably argue, their most important player. So I can see goals. I think 2 goals, Firmino.
Yeah, I like that, Quigliano. He was rested in midweek. He didn't feature in the Capital One. The FA Cup game at all. He wasn't even in the squad. So just slight concern. Sturridge is back. Origi's back. Benteke played. But I absolutely agree. I think Firmino's nailed on to start. Agree with JP as well that he's their kind of star man at the moment. Even though Villa won last week, it was only their 3rd win of the season, wasn't it? So. Yeah, it doesn't bode well for Aston Villa, I don't think.
No.
And as I said, I'm putting all my eggs in one basket. And how about this for a long shot? Coutinho.
Okay, yeah, he scored in midweek,
Wow.
didn't he?
I think, yeah. I mean, there's no denying his ability. He's had a long time out now, so I mean, in terms of he may be lacking match fitness, but definitely he's got the sort of he's not had that tough Christmas spell that everyone else had. So I think he could be coming back refreshed. Already picked up a goal. I'm tipping Coutinho as the long shot. Get him in while he's cheap.
Okay, thoughts on that, JP?
Yeah, I mean, again, like Quigliano says, I mean, technically a very good player. He's likely to feature in that team, playing an important position. So, yeah, I like it. Like, good long shot.
Okay, and I think Quigliano's cat has got something to say on that, hasn't it?
Mate, what a microphone that's picking that up.
I mean, everyone's in agreement there at least. Cats and humans. So, okay. And just while we're sort of discussing some of these fixtures here, thoughts on the Man City and Spurs game? And I just want to touch on the fact that Arsenal play Leicester as well. So the top 4 teams all kind of playing each other this weekend. Is that a bad thing?
Well, I'll take this question if that's okay. I think it's potentially a bad thing for your fantasy football team. It's going to make for great television, don't get me wrong. It's difficult to predict. People doubt Leicester. They've doubted them all season, and they've proven people wrong. They proved me wrong against Man City. I can't call the Arsenal-Leicester game. I have no idea who's going to win it, I'm going to be honest. And Man City Spurs, I have no idea. So in terms of, fantasy football...
What's he doing here?
I was talking then. I'll continue now. I can't predict who's going to score the points in those games, so it's very, very difficult. What I would say is, don't be rash. Don't take players out based on those fixtures because it is just 1 week. But yeah, there's my analysis.
Okay.
So what is the analysis there that you don't know what to say?
No, the analysis is it's a difficult week for fantasy football because of those fixtures. However, don't make rash decisions based on 1 game week.
I mean, that's not hardly a summary. I'm looking for a concise answer. What's your analysis? Really shorten it for me.
Tough game week. Don't panic.
I beg to differ. Aguero loves a goal against Spurs. I mean, there's some decent options in Spurs, but clean sheets are sometimes not sort of the way to go. I know they've improved that recently, but still don't back them to keep a clean sheet every week. And Aguero loves a goal, so there's an option there. I think Arsenal will do a number on Leicester. They're at home where they're comfortable. They'll definitely, I think, be going to kill Leicester's title bid on that game. Chelsea-Newcastle. I mean, Newcastle's still very hit and miss. I think Chelsea could reap some rewards there. West Ham go to Norwich, who look dreadful. So Payet, I know he's been missing for a few weeks, but he's definitely an option there. United going to Sunderland. Martial's looking better. Rooney. Options. So I think it's a better game week.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think I'd throw in Bournemouth at home to Stoke as well. And Stoke have looked awful for the last few weeks. They're conceding left, right, and centre. And I think to come back to your man Benik Afobe, Quigliano, you may have him in society, but I don't know. But there's plenty of other options out there. So that brings us on nicely to the Delia this week, Quigliano.
Somebody that I need a performance from, and that is Wijnaldum.
Is he still in your team?
He's reappeared in my team. Okay, he reappeared for a couple of weeks. They had good fixtures, and he slapped me in the face with nothing, didn't he? So, Delia, I'm calling you out. Where are you, Wijnaldum?
And I know he loves a little bit of Twitter, so I'm going to be sending some tweets out to him later.
Fantastic.
Let's see if he responds, because he responds to everyone else. Well, I was going to say something, but I'm not going to, because it might be a little bit deemed a little bit dodgy. JP, thoughts on that, Wijnaldum? Is he likely to do anything against Chelsea? I mean, that's not what we're saying. We're asking him for a performance.
We're asking where have you been? I mean, the last fixtures for Newcastle, they had West Brom at home, they had Everton away, Watford away. I mean, I thought there was chances for him there.
Well, I hope so, Millsy, because based on the advice of Quigliano, I put him in my team 3 weeks ago, and he's done nothing. So very frustrated with Wijnaldum there.
Just to check, have you changed position, JP?
Position, sorry.
There we go. He's back with the sound quality again.
Oh,
Good
I
lad.
do apologise. Yeah. So as I was saying, sorry. Wijnaldum, hopefully he'll fire. You know, it's a difficult game against Chelsea, but he's a very, very good player. I think he's a good dealer. He needs to sort himself out.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a similar situation with Payet at West Ham, so we might talk about that a little bit later on. But let's go straight into the side tips then, Quigliano.
Right, so it's hashtag side tips, players to keep an eye on. We mentioned that Chelsea fixture. I think Willian is still a serious option. More than likely to start. Hazard isn't an option. He's the more reliable of the Chelsea midfield, and he's cheap, so I would put him in, and potentially a Wijnaldum replacement there at that equal price. I've already said Arsenal are going to beat Leicester. That is definitely happening this week. And I think we look to the players of Sanchez and Ozil to try and get some points out of that game. Everton at home to West Brom. That man who I haven't got, Ross Barkley, who can be hit and miss, I think is a serious option. The Albion don't quite look the team that they were. We can discuss that later. Afobe, you've already mentioned, I think. Stoke, we've got a little Stokey fan amongst us, haven't we? And he's even said that without Shawcross at the back, the Butland clean sheets aren't as secure. So I think Afobe is a shout to maybe squeak a goal out, and he is very reasonably priced. And the final side tip is Martial, who goes to Sunderland. Bit of hot water up there because of this Adam Johnson stuff. There'll be a lot of media pressure on Sunderland. I think Martial's going to go and sort of knock the stuffing out of them there.
Okay, yeah, I like that. JP, has he stolen any of your side tips there, or have you got anything different for us?
He's only stolen one. I've got two, but just very quickly before I do my side tips. Quigliano, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
How many points have you lost in doubting Leicester this season?
Well, I'm probably going to need a bit of time to do the maths on that, mate.
But just add a point of Vardy and Mahrez, and that's your total.
Well, I haven't got Robert Huth either, so you might want to add those in.
Yeah.
Have got Simpson, however. So
okay.
So we can put those. We sort of balance in the books there.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, you might want to rephrase it. Do you think you've lost too many points? Would have maybe been an easy one to answer.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm going to move on. My side tips are: I've gone with Lingard, Jesse Lingard. Impressed me with his goal against Chelsea. Looks like a young talent. I think he'll start. Very, very cheap player, I imagine. I haven't actually checked his price.
Imagine. I mean, again, it's the language that he uses.
Yes, I appreciate that. Thanks, Mills.
He's mocking you.
Well, I didn't find it insulting, so I'm going to carry on.
Excellent.
This is amazing. Okay.
I'm going to go with Jermaine Defoe. Okay, now playing against Man United, agreed, not an easy fixture. However, he's a very, very prolific striker. He's a good goal scorer. I don't think he's a sort of player that's affected by pressure. So I'm going to go with Jermaine Defoe. And I'm going to say Payet. And the reason I'm going to is, yes, he's gone slightly dry the last few weeks. However, Norwich look very, very poor at the moment. Yeah. I think this is his bounce-back game. He's got Norwich this week, and next week he's got Sunderland. Okay? 2 fixtures in which I think he's going to get points.
I mean, yeah, something to consider in there, which I haven't factored in with my Gary of the week, because all I've talked about really is that I think he's going to perform this week. Firmino and Coutinho, if you did back those, bear in mind you're potentially going to be benching them or taking them out the following week because Liverpool aren't playing. Something to be aware of there. Game week 27 leaves us a couple of fixtures short.
Yeah, so there's Everton, Liverpool, Newcastle as well that are having blanks there.
Yeah. So bear that in mind when you're deciding what to back. And I mean, I'll be honest, Firmino is someone I'm desperate to have, but based on my team, I can't afford to get him in and then have to transfer him out or bench him. So
and it's interesting.
He's not going to get the nod.
Okay, and it's interesting as well because his price is still going up. I think he's projected to rise on Friday night or Saturday night, which is insane considering he has got that blank in game week 27. But obviously people have got that much faith in him for the trip to Aston Villa. So
I think people are looking. Yeah, they're looking at the direct fixture. I mean, some people do that. They might not have even clicked to game week 27.
Yeah. Okay. Right, gentlemen. That kind of wraps up that part of the show. We've got a few questions from the fans coming up next. So that'll be right after this.
You are listening to Mills and Quigliano on the FantasyFootballTips.co podcast. Sponsored by Premier Punt. All your fantasy Premier League tips in one juicy little podcast. Get in touch at www.fantasyfootballtips.co.
Okay, so hopefully he's still listening after the shambolic opening to this show. And I mean, JP, if you're still kind of understanding anything we're talking about, that would be very, very good. Got some questions. This one comes in from a friend of the show, Stephen Carty, and he's emailed us. He's a premium member, so a lot of respect for Stephen. And he says, hello again, chaps. Which defenders would you recommend for the coming game weeks? I already own Alderweireld, Huth, Ward, Walshide and Oxford. I'm going to keep the first two and Oxford as he keeps the squad price down, but the other two need to go. My current options include Van Dijk, but that would give him a double up with Forster in goal, Fuchs at Leicester, Darmian.
Careful with that one. Careful with that. I hope you're going to bleep that swear word out.
Yeah. and Monreal. So thoughts on that? I know where I would kind of go with those, and maybe if there's anyone else.
He's got money to spend by the sound of it.
He has.
He has got money to spend. So pretty much go money no option with this, I'd say.
Right. Can I open up with a few?
Go for it.
Bellerin, absolute no-brainer. That man is an absolute legend. If you're going to go Monreal, you might as well go Bellerin, because I think of the two, you're slightly more likely an assist with Bellerin. He gets forward slightly more.
Yeah, it's about 0.2 more as well, I think, isn't it?
I think slightly more. And a player that I've noticed in a lot of people's team scoring a lot of points is it Scott Dan at Crystal Palace?
Yeah, he's getting a few goals as well, isn't he?
My goodness, yeah, this guy has creeped up. Gets himself goals in the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's a slippery dolphin.
That's twice. Brilliant.
Yeah, twice in one night. Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed saying it. So, he's looking very, very good. Another option if you want the occasional goal.
Okay. Quigliano. I mean, the other options. I mean, Darmian. Is Darmian seriously a prospect? For me, Darmian should not be on that list.
I think probably going against the grain here, I'd maybe be looking at Azpilicueta. Chelsea have Newcastle, then they've got Southampton, then they've got Norwich. That's maybe a long-term player that I'd be looking to have in. I would have possibly tipped Zuma had he not picked up that injury. I think Chelsea will have got to finish strong, and the fixtures aren't ugly for them. There's definitely clean sheet potential in there. So Azpilicueta.
Okay. Yeah, why not? I mean, I'm a massive fan of Borthwick Jackson at United. I think obviously there's the slight concern that he might get dropped, but the way he's playing, I don't think he will. So I'd throw Borthwick Jackson into that mix as well at 4 million. I think he's due to go up over the next couple of days to 4.1, but it's really good cheap option for me.
If Gabriel stays the distance at Arsenal and keeps Mertesacker out, then he's obviously potential as well at that price.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing I would say is missing from that defence there. I mean, I played my wild cards 2 weeks ago and put an Arsenal defender in there, and I'm just reaping the rewards there, really. Todd Carty, sorry, not Todd Carty, Stephen Carty.
Wasn't he in EastEnders?
He was in Grange Hill, yeah. Todd Carty may well be listening. If you are, email in. But Stephen...
And the bill. Please recognise the bill as well.
The bill as well, okay, the bill. He does go on to say, if you ever decide to put a picture of yourselves on the website, can I suggest that you use this one for inspiration? And he sent in the famous picture from the Ricky Gervais podcast, where he's holding Carl Pilkington, and then a very tall-looking Stephen Merchant is just looking a little bit glum-faced. And I quite like that. I like the thought of us holding the JP aloft with a very gormless expression.
I like that a lot.
As his beard flops to the ground.
I like that. Thanks, Steve.
As long as there's no copyright and plagiarism issues there, I'd hate to be sued by them, but yeah.
I think we'd struggle to get the same lighting effect, to be honest. So. Okay.
Yeah. A definite option. And
It's an option. I like it.
Good food for thought.
Okay, a couple of more questions from Twitter, and this one comes from FPL Ultra, and he asks something we talked about earlier. Payet, keep or get rid? Badly out of form at the moment.
Keep.
Yeah, I'd say keep as well. So I think that's pretty unanimous. Next one from Alberto Benanati, and he's asking for predictions on the double game week dates.
Couldn't throw my hat at it.
Again, yeah, myself. I'm not confident enough to predict it. Like you, Mills. I heard rumours it will be pretty close to the end, but that's a very rough figure. I'm not sure.
Very vague as well. Pretty close to the end. So
Yeah.
is that game week 32, 33?
I mean,
34,
game week 37.
35?
Game week.
Technically, you've just repeated what I said because I did very clearly say that's a very rough figure. So.
Okay, I mean, game week 37 has been bandied around. And there are other websites as well out there that have done extensive research on this that we probably are not going to go into that amount of depth here. So one more question. This one is from 7 Stars Fantasy. And he says, do you take your profit when changing all your players using your wildcard?
Depends when you're playing it in terms of that.
What do you mean? So he's basically saying, so if you sell players and you've obviously, there's a price difference, an increase, do you take all the profit?
Is he saying does that happen, or is that an idea to do?
Yeah, no, he's saying, does that happen?
Well, you obviously get 50% of the sell-on value. So a £5 million player that is now worth 6, he would get 5.5. Is that answering the question?
Yeah.
Or does he mean is it as a tactic to try and sell all your players that have now gone up in price and then rebuild from there?
I mean, I think he's asking the question. I think he's thinking...
I think you need to... Can we hear from 6 Stars? Because this 7 Stars, that's too vague for me.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's got 3 followers, so he's... I mean, that's that's not no slant on him. He may well not like to... I mean, he's only following 22, so I feel privileged that he's following us.
Okay. Maybe look to get that ratio up for him.
I mean, he does go on to say that... Well, he doesn't go on to say. His profile picture, it says, managing my fantasy football team is my full-time job and business is good.
Wow.
Okay, excellent.
So I don't know what you want to kind of read into that. Quigliano, just sort of aside from this, I just want to quickly get your thoughts on the rumours of this recent slump that you're in.
Where's this rumour come from?
Well, it's come from the league table. It's pretty factual.
Please expand on that.
So you're not having the best of times at the moment, are you, in terms of points?
I mean, is he basing this on fact or just opinion?
Well, the league table doesn't lie, does it?
Well, okay. I'm pretty sure there's been actually a turnaround in fortunes at Barocca Juniors.
Sorry. Correct me if I'm speaking out of turn. Sorry.
A turnaround. A wild card was played. High points were received. A bad week last week for me, and that was 50 points. So I mean, a bad week, and he's picking up 50. I think you might need to check your sources, mate, because I think they may be talking out their backside.
Okay, I mean, fighting talk. Okay, right, Quigliano, JP, I think that pretty much brings us to the end of the standard podcast. We are going to come back for the podcast extra in a couple of minutes. Well, not in a couple of minutes, right after this, actually. Any last words for the cheapies out there who don't want to pay £2 a month for the podcast extra?
We'll see you shortly because I'm sure you're going to purchase it soon.
Okay, and if you need to do that, go to fantasyfootballtips.co and you'll find out all the details there. Make sure you signed up to the weekly email, by the way. That is free. That gives you our last-minute definitive captain pick on a Saturday morning. JP, any last words?
Thank you very much to all the listeners. I apologise for our week of absence last week. It's a minor blip. It won't happen again this season. And as always, we appreciate your viewing.
Okay, fantastic. We'll be back right after this with Podcast Extra.
Warning, 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 warning. 3, 2, 1. The FantasyFootballTips.co podcast with Mills and Quigliano.